How do you follow up one of the most shocking and traumatic episodes of the season? How do you come with a episode that is going to have such a hard act to follow when it comes to following up Turning Point? Well, as we jumped into episode 22, dubbed Dreams and Reality, that's exactly what I was worried about, but what they actually hit out the park. Episode Dreams and Reality was definitely an episode that I thought really handled everything that went on last episode going into this week's episode really well. It basically started off by putting a bow and a wrapping gift present, of Ruger. It had it kind of like putting a bow on that adventure that had been going on for so long. So Rudy, Rudyard, and Eris finally made their way back to the Asura Kingdom. They finally made their way back to Rudy's home. And on their way there, right, Rudyard and Rudy were able to finally have a conversation about everything that had went down between Orsted and everything that had been going on between himself and as well as the man god. And Rudy was able to kind of put Rudyard on track for what's to come, right? He was able to tell him about how the man god had been coming to his dreams and what he had been advising him of. And I'm talking about the curse that had been put on the Superds, how the curse is diminishing over time, and what the future may look like for Rudyard. And obviously that caused Rudyard to be very, very emotional because for the first time in 400 years, he finally has a light at the end of his tunnel, knowing that the Superds, the way that they're viewed in the world, their overview, the way that they're depicted could finally change, and that was super powerful for something like that to be shared for Rudyard. So that was a extremely powerful conversation. And then right after that, they all make their way to the Asura Kingdom, and they all make their way to Rudy's home. And they come to find, and Rudy comes to find, that his home was completely demolished. Like, that whole entire area that he had grown up in was completely annihilated by this mana disaster. Like, I mean, it completely just decimated everything that was around there, including his home. So at this point, all he has left is just the memories of what was. Well, before he can really take some time into thinking of what's next, Rudyard comes and tells the party. He tells them that at this point they don't need a bodyguard anymore. They're older now. You know what I mean? Like, they don't need to be protected anymore. They can in fact protect themselves. And Rudyard kind of took this as the end of their adventure, and they all share a really emotional moment together. And they say that they will meet again, and then they say goodbye. And I want to stop right there for a second. And I really love the fact that they spend so much time focusing on the growth that they all had as characters, and they showed us through a few different cutscenes, and it was very well directed, of how Rudyard himself has grown as a character and has grown as a person. Right, he was this hellbent type character who was focused on saving children, but who was always a little bit angry, and who was always kind of angry at the world, but rightfully so for what the world has been doing to him. But slowly those barriers have been broken down, and as he's been on his adventure with Rudy and with Eris, he's seen people thank him. He's seen people challenge him. He's seen people mention dead end and not be afraid. He's seen people realize that he's a Superd and challenge him, and are able to walk away from that better. He's had all of these amazing experiences to where he attributes a lot of that to Rudy and what Rudy was able to do for him. And although Rudy kept saying that no, it wasn't me, it was in fact him, right? He even showed him the little figurine that that Rudy had made for him, and that he'd been breaking down those barriers. And he even let Rudy know, for the first time in all these years, there's a light at the end of my tunnel. I have a next step. I have the first step in the rest of my life, and I was never given that before I met you guys. And I thought that was a beautifully directed scene, and it really shows us how they changed from children to more semi-adults, and how Rudyard was able to change in these 3 years from somebody who, again, was oppressed and was angry at the world, and who has now changed to be an open, more caring, more enigmatic, right? And who's able to now have a reason to keep moving forward and a different attitude towards life. And I thought that was a very beautiful moment. As the rest of the episode moved up, obviously we got the emotional things. We got the cliffhanger that we got left off on with Eris leaving Rudy, which I want to talk about that. We're about 5 minutes here, so I want to talk about that in length. So I'll kind of summarize this up. But, you know, they essentially make their way to, I guess, like the village, a village to where all the people who are being found and are missing throughout these few years have been coming to. And it's kind of like where they're being held at. It's the same area to where Roxy originally found Rudy's family's name, and that's where she set out on her adventure. They're able to find 𝐜𝐴𝐚, and at that point, Eris is able to learn about what happened to her family, which is extremely sad. So Eris finds out that not only did Saros, the grandpapa, did he die, but they found out that Lord Philip, which was Rudy's uncle, which was Paul's brother, not only, or cousin, whatever, but we found out that Lord Philip had died, and his wife also had died. They got beamed, or they got transported to a dangerous area together, and 𝐜𝐴𝐚 had found them, but they had passed away. And then Lord Saros, they informed Eris that he had taken the heat for how this Mana disaster was handled through the Asura kingdom, and he was executed. And that the hated Noro's house, the house that Rudy's technically a part of and that Paul's a part of, had taken over, and they had requested Eris, if found, to become a concubine. So it's a lot of information to absorb, and through this, right, Eris now had to plan what her next steps were, as she asked to be alone. And the next steps that she ended up taking were to go and sleep with Rudy, because she had finally turned 15. And through Rudy's initial hesitancy, he ended up following through. With a beautiful scene, mind you. Sex scenes can be done in a lot of different ways through a lot of different mediums. But I felt like, even though this was an anime, I felt like it was done very tastefully. Because as it was occurring, they showed us how we had met like baby Eris, and she had kind of grown up through become the woman that she is now. And ultimately, we got left off on the cliffhanger where she left him a note. Cut off her hair, which is the staple to do in anime, apparently. It's every freaking ass anime, the girl always cuts off her hair and has, hair that's like this short, but whatever. She cuts off her hair, and she leaves him a note saying that she left with 𝐜𝐴𝐚, or she left, and then he finds out from the head butler of her family, that she left with 𝐜𝐴𝐚, and to not tell Rudy. And Rudy becomes very emotional and distraught. He doesn't know how to handle it. So I want to talk about that for a moment. Eris just went through a huge traumatic experience, and she decided that she was going to take her life in her own hands. Probably planning out. She probably wants to get stronger, so that's why she's going to set out with 𝐜𝐴𝐚. She wants to get stronger. She wants to get more powerful. I'm hoping that she's going to put a plan together to take down the family, the Grey Rat family, the Nobos family, Noro's family, whatever it is. And reclaim her spot, as opposed to becoming just a concubine and falling in line. So I think she's going to set out to do her own plan. So prior to her leaving, she wanted to leave Rudy with something, a part of her. And it's very difficult to do that, because what do you do, right? If she wants to go set out on her own journey and take her own next step, she needs to do that on her own, essentially. But she loves Rudy. That's the end of the day. She loves Rudy. And Rudy may not completely understand that now, nor maybe he doesn't, right? Because he's just so immature in life. Even though he lived for 30 plus years, and he's lived here now, he's never had that emotional attachment to multiple people. He's never had to deal with loss when it comes to love, in a way, you know what I mean? So he doesn't quite get it. He's not mature enough to get what just happened. But she wanted to leave a part of her behind for Rudy to say, I do love you, and I do want to have a family with you. But the note that she said basically said, not right now. And she could have worded it better, but she did have to break the ties off, so Rudy wasn't there just kind of like waiting for her. which kind of speaks to the maturity of Eris in a way. You know what I mean? It speaks to the maturity that Eris has, understanding that if she were to leave him, but then leave him hanging in a way, you know, he may be there just hoping or waiting for her to come back, and he needs to go find his own path. So she's able to leave something to where she kind of breaks it off in a way. And he's like, did she break up with me? Did she abandon me? That was the thing that he said, right? He's like, she abandoned me. And he begins to wail and cry. And he's going to have to grow from this. But I hope that he doesn't lose that love for Eris, because the love for him is absolutely there. And, you know, he's now going to have motivation to go and find Roxy and go and find Sophie and go and find companionship. But he needs to make sure he never loses that for Eris, because she's extremely important. And I love that she made it a point to leave something of her behind for him, which was their last night's memory of each other. And I think it was beautiful, and I think it was the exact thing to do. And again, it speaks to the maturity of Eris and eventual maturity of Rudy, if he could ever figure out as to why she did what she just did. But I'm going to leave you guys on that. I've talked now for 11 minutes. I can keep talking about this episode, but I want to make sure I don't take too much time. Just know this episode was fantastic. And how do you follow up to something epic? You do this, and you tug our heartstrings, you know, the emotionality of the episode, and you put high stakes out there. You put Rudyard leaving, Eris leaving, family dead. What's Rudy going to do? It's all unknown. And we only have like one episode left to really get what his next steps are going to be. So let me know what you guys thought about this episode down in the comments below. I appreciate you guys being here every single week with me on Mushoku Tensei Sundays. They're going to come to an end, my friends, which is really sad. But I love that you guys are here every single week with me. I appreciate it for the bottom of my heart. And, man, what an episode. I'm going to have to go reflect on this a little bit more. But let's chat about the episode in the comments below. Let me know what you guys thought. All right, I'll see you guys next week for episode 23. Peace out.